Students of this university. So, without wasting time, directly coming to the business, as Sir has mentioned, the title of my paper is Human Security and Governmentality in India's Northeast, a Contemporary Perspective. May I request Pankaj to switch on the light because I'm a person with low vision, so I need more light for it. And I have to read like this, so please bear with me for that. Yeah, this is basically a theoretical paper with some empirical references to India's northeast. I have divided my paper into four parts. The first part is basically dealing with the whole idea of human security. Secondly, critiquing the discourse of human security from a Foucauldian perspective. That is the concept of governmentality, Michel Foucault's idea of governmentality. I am trying to serve the issues of convergence and non-convergence between the whole idea of human security and the idea of governmentality that has been raised by Michel Foucault in 1970s. Third one, I will basically refer to certain empirical realities in India's northeast, and the last one is basically a theoretical debate based on the idea of human security and governmentality. As you all know, the idea of human security developed in the 1990s. It's a journey from people's security to comprehensive security to human security. In the year 1994, the UNDP report, which was titled as Human Security, that Human Security report basically identified 7 broad aspects of human security. That is the environmental security, economic security, food security, health security, personal security, political security, and so on and so forth. So one is the UNDP School of Human Security that has identified 7 broad areas of human security, and there are many other approaches. The Japanese school of approach, the Canadian approach towards human security. Most of the students of political science are quite familiar with those ideas. The basic argument of the human security is to look at human being as the relevant object of security rather than the state or the government or the nation. It has shifted the attention from state or nation to human being as the relevant object of security. So basically, the idea of human security is transcendental. The problems related to health, food, environment, economy, all those problems transcends the national or the territorial boundaries. So the UNDP School of Thought emphasize on the role of the state, a very significant role of the state towards protecting human security. On the one hand, there is another development that we have seen from 1990 onwards. That is the neoliberal discourse, basically talking about liberalization, privatization, and globalization. That discourse, both the global discourse, one is the UNDP approach, and the discourse of neoliberalism is talking about the relegating role of the state, the diminishing role of the state. Basically a very minimal rule of the state. Basically, everything has been handed over to market will determine everything. The rule of the state is only confined to the maintenance of law and order. So this kind of debate, one school of thought is talking about a more significant role of the state. On the other hand, the discourse of globalization is talking about very limited and the minimal role of the state. So this is the debate. In this context, I would like to refer to Michel Foucault's work on governmentality. What is the meaning of governmentality? Governmentality basically refers to the technology of government, through which it tries to generate knowledge about population. The technology through which the state tries to control its population. So in that context, Michel Foucault used the term biopolitics. That means the power of the state that generate knowledge about the population, and at the same time, with this power, we also, the state also controls its population. That is the power of biopower. And therefore, the issues like biopolitics basically concerns to the socio-economic and other political interventions on the part of the biopower to control its citizen. Basically, it talks about providing certain protection to its people, creating a congenial environment, improve the productivity, improve the longevity of the human being. So ultimately, the biopower looks at the population, looks at the people, as subject. That is the power through which biopower is the power that ultimately converts the people into subject. The whole idea is that the whole discourse of biopolitics has basically converted the citizen into subject. So in that sense, we will find a kind of convergence between the biopolitical intervention as well as the human security frame of intervention, basically talking about the protection of the people, basically talking about providing security to the people. So another publication by Michel Foucault, that is called The Society Must Be Defended. Foucault was basically concerning about the nature of the power. It basically divided state power into two categories. One is the sovereign power and the biopower. Biopower means the power of the state to make life. Power of the state to make life, as in the case of human security, what we are doing, the state is, emphasizing on reducing infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, protecting the life of the citizen. That is the biopower of the state, one dimension of the state power, that is to give life, to make life. And at the same time, the sovereign power. Sovereign power is the power to enact the right to kill. Sovereign power means the power to enact the right to kill. So one is the two sides of the same coin. One is the biopower and the sovereign power. Sovereign power is talking about taking life, and the biopower is talking about the making life. So in that context, what we can see in contemporary time, the knowledge is very important. What Foucault said, the knowledge is power. So to generate proper knowledge about the population so that it can govern the people. Only the knowledge can make you to govern. Say for example, the colonial knowledge, the anthropological knowledge, why anthropological survey of India was introduced by the Britishers to generate knowledge about the people so that the colonizers can govern the colonized. So in that sense, knowledge is power. So Foucault was basically busy with analyzing different forms of power associated with the state. So in that sense, we can find the line of convergence between human security approach and the governmentality approach that talked about very significant role of the state towards protecting human beings. In the light of this theoretical debate, I would like to refer to certain issues pertinent to Northeast. Professor Udayan Mishra, in his recent work, that is The Burden of History, published from Oxford University Press, we basically focus on the issues of partition in Assam and the unresolved issues. Professor Uday Mishra has pointed out certain things. From 1947 onwards, the issues that are there in the public domain are almost same. We are fighting, the problems like the xenophobia of illegal immigration that has been there in Assam for more than 75 years after independence. We have problem of, underdevelopment or uneven development. We have problems of unemployment. We have problems of lack of infrastructure. We have lack of industrialization. We have problem pertinent to citizenship. The debates that are going on the issues of CAA. So almost the same issues are continuing for last 75 years in the public domain. So in that sense, of course, the India's northeast is a very much a human security deficit region. When we are talking about human security, insecurity issues in India's northeast, we basically engage with insurgency issues, the low intensity conflict, ethnic violence, the presence of the military persons. So these are the issues that are basically pertinent to Northeast India. My previous presenter has also pointed out the issue of out migration, but now we can connect the problem of reverse migration that is happening in the post-corona situation. So how government is addressing those issues in contemporary time? The problems of health insecurity, the post-corona situation has, of course, reminded us the significance of human security, insecurity, particularly in the context of health security, how it transcends the national or the territorial boundaries. So, what I would like to argue is that, both the discourse, whether it is the discourse of governmentality or the discourse of human security, it has basically reduced the very essence of the concept of citizen. While the government, the state legitimacy is very much connected with the population. So while a government is adopting a particular policy, it never looks at the people as citizens, rather it looks at the people as subjects. Say for example, the biopolitical issues through which who call it the panoptic vision of the state, those mechanisms through which the government tries to control us, say for example your PAN card, your voter card, many cards, driving license and all. These are the mechanisms of generating knowledge about population. These are the biopolitical measures through which government tries to generate knowledge about the population so that it can formulate proper policies. So, looking at the people as a citizen rather than as subject rather than citizen. So, in that context, I would like to refer to the question of democratic deficit in the region. What the government is doing today is basically the beneficiary schemes, looking the population as a subject rather than as citizen. Providing this 2,000 rupees to the people who are working outside Assam, basically, at the time of Corona. Now, the Arunodaya Asani providing 830 rupees to each and every family. So these are the beneficiary schemes that basically, look at the citizen as, subject. Second important point is, as I have mentioned, that, the idea of democracy, as Ambedkar has reminded us, is that democracy has the two phases of democracy. One is democracy as settlement. While democracy addresses the real issues of the problem. And the other phase of democracy is democracy as appeasement. Democracy as settlement and democracy as appeasement. So how, as we all are aware of the fact that now the democracy, the rule of law has been converted into rule of numbers. The rule of law has been converted into rule of numbers. And the whole idea of citizenship, when we are talking about citizenship in the context of India or Assam, our idea of citizenship is highly preoccupied with certain dates and years. Pre-1947, after before 1947. In the context of Assam, after before 1966, after before 1971. So our whole idea of citizenship is basically concerned about dates and years, the technicalities, rather than the actual essence, actual philosophy of the idea of citizenship. Citizenship is not at all a natural product. How to acquire the qualities of a citizen? It is a historical process. We need a historical, socio-historical, political and economic process to become a citizen. How to acquire the good qualities of the citizen. How to make the qualities of the citizen as the habit of the heart. How to become a citizen. How to make the habits of the citizen as the habit of the heart. But we are busy with dates and years. We are busy with NRC. We are busy with Citizenship Amendment Act. So those discourses, the democratic deficits, emphasizing on rule of number rather than rule of law. Secondly, emphasizing on democracy as appeasement rather than democracy as settlement. So if you look at the scenario in Assam or Northeast India, I would like to point out certain issues. A study carried out by one of my teachers, Vio Kumar Das Institute of Social Changes and Development a few years back, Dr. Kalyan Das, Mapping Human Security in Northeast India. He has identified basically 14 indicators of human insecurity in India's northeast. Particularly, he has pointed out poverty, rural unemployment, school dropout, infant mortality, morbidity related to diseases, crime against children, crime against women, incidents of corruption, poor governance basically in terms of non-adoption of right policies, then the gap between the social sector expenditure and budgetary allocation, pending cases in the courts, then occurrence of low intensity conflict, then basically the environmental issues, the encroachment of the forest lands. So he basically identified those 14 indicators of human insecurity in Northeast India, and he tried to compare the status of different northeastern states. And in his study, he showed that he identified that Tripura is the highest human insecurity state in Northeast, followed by Assam and Mizoram. So we are living in a gross human insecurity scenario. But if you look at the governmentality, the politics of governmentality, how government is addressing those issues. Now we have seen the Minister of Health, government of Assam, during the pandemic, he declared various policies for the human security of the people, particularly basically the people without migrations, providing 2,000 rupees to those, families. And again, declaring other policies like, Arunodaya Asami. But all these issues, if you look at it, has also generated a kind of database, the data that we never had before. Minister has very clearly mentioned certain very significant data that from Nagaon district he mentioned in a declaration perhaps in July 2020 from Nagaon district. In Assam, we have more than 60,000 out migration. Then it is followed by Nalbari, maybe 35,000 out migration. Then followed by Lokhimpur, more than 15,000 out migration from Assam. So the way, in the name of human security, how the government is generating knowledge about population, and people are quite well aware of the fact that the way government is addressing, how the government is really addressing those issues with with the appeasement policy, like Arunodaya and so on and so forth.
Please conclude.
Yeah, my humble submission before the House is that it's that how do you look at human security in this part of the world, whether it is really an emancipatory discourse or it is a new language of domination for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pankaj Jyoti Gogoi, for your nice.
It is concern about dates and years, the technique.